All right. Hello, everybody. Let me just make sure that Facebook is sharing the broadcast because sometimes it doesn't. And then I'll introduce the lovely lady who's hanging out with me tonight.
Hey.
You go ahead and say hi to everybody.
Hey everyone, my name's Anita and I'm part of Unstick Your Life, and I'm really excited to be here today.
Yay! Super excited to have you here today. Okay, cool. I think it is live. Fabulous. I'm just looking for the Facebook feed where it's listed. I don't know if you had a chance to share it. I'm just going to share it really quick with some of the audience.
Great.
That is part of my my page, my business page. You can feel free to do the same if you have a second.
Okay.
And all right, cool. So guys, we are live with the lovely Anita, and I'm going to introduce her more eloquently in a minute. This is Teany Hidalgo for Sanese Wellness Academy, here with your Purpose with Passion video series. And today, as always, every Thursday at 9 o'clock, we're encouraging you to discover your passions because they will lead you to your purpose. And as you guys know, I come back here every single Thursday and I try to bring somebody new if I don't do like a quick 10-minute highlight. And today we have a lovely, lovely young lady. Her name is Anita. And tell me, how do you say your last name?
Chitnis.
Chitnis. Okay, that's easy. I can do that. So Anita Chitnis. And just to give you a little background on her, she's a confidence coach for the millennial women, focusing on not only building confidence, but coping with anxiety, creating better relationships, and expelling limiting beliefs. I love that, by the way. She hopes to inspire thousands of young women to pursue their dreams and push for success. Her business was born due to her experiences of struggle and believes she can help other women unstick their lives. She currently lives in New Jersey and enjoys Nutella. I won't tell anyone. And watching Friends in her free time. Oh my gosh, I went through a whole moment where I was like obsessed with Nutella. But let's not get into that. We'll talk about that later offline. I love Lieutenant. So thank you for joining me today for the Purpose with Passion series. I'm so happy you're here. So just to give everybody just a quick story. So I found Anita and she contacted me right away. And I was like, I'm looking for people who are really passionate, who are entrepreneurs, who are looking to, talk about what they're really passionate about and sharing their message in the world. And then we started chatting and I was like, oh my gosh, you're a millennial. I love you guys. I love the energy that you guys have. And I love that a lot of you are really out there. You're really pushing the limits.
Right.
And I really appreciate that about you guys. And specifically you, because you are really trying to go out there and inspiring women your age, and obviously any woman who really needs to hear the message, but specifically for the millennial boys and girls. So I really appreciate that you're here spreading that message for them.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to get into our conversation.
Yes. Cool. All right. So, hold on a second. This thing is going crazy. Okay, cool. So I want you to talk a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little more detail about who you are, what you do, and what is this thing that you are so passionate about?
Okay, so as you all know, my name's Anita. And so I was in college and, as many young people, I didn't want to really work in a 9-to-5 corporate job. And so I was trying to find a different outlet to let my creativity kind of guide me to finding something that I could really get into. And so it kind of took a little bit of soul searching, trying to figure out what I really wanted to do.
Yep.
And then I kind of realized that some of the struggles that I had overcome or even was still going through, a lot of other people my age were struggling with the same thing. And so I just kind of figured, if I could find a way to overcome it myself, then maybe I could help other people act as somewhat of a guide for them to also overcome any of these obstacles and to really push themselves to success, because I think a lot of people are much more deserving of a lot more success in their life, but maybe they can't seem to see it or visualize it themselves just because they have certain limiting beliefs, like, oh, because of ABC, I cannot do XYZ.
Right.
But if you find a way to overcome ABC, then you can get XYZ and more than that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about some of the limitations that you experienced and how you sort of got inspired to help people through this stuff.
Okay, so as a lot of other people I have found, especially during college, I was suffering from a lot of anxiety and depression, and I couldn't really figure out how to get out of this rut, I would say. It was kind of like a hole that I dug for myself, and so it was just spiraling down further and further. And so I couldn't really figure out how to get out. And I actually shared this part of my story with a few people where I had looked for help online and I couldn't really find anyone that I could connect with, just because I found that a lot of people who act as a guide, not necessarily through mental health institutions necessarily to provide medical help, but just even serving as a guide to help me overcome certain things and how to cope with anxiety. I just couldn't really connect on a deep level, maybe because we were in different demographics, like vastly different, to the point where it was getting a little difficult for me to even find that connection point with them. And so I decided that, a big part of it was a lot of people that I was looking up to were maybe double my age. And while they do have a lot of experiences to provide me with answers, I just felt like maybe I could connect better with someone who is around my same age, who maybe grew up in the same kind of environment that I did, who saw some of the struggles that maybe another generation may not have just because they didn't grow up with some of the same things. I know that a lot of pressure has been building because of social media. And so what I do is, I kind of help some of my clients figure out how to use social media for good, because there are a lot of support groups that you can find. There's a lot of people that you can find online to actually push you towards your goal, instead of using social media as, thinking of this platform where everyone compares each other to each other, and everyone is constantly thinking about, oh, well, she looks like this and he looks like that. But if you find a way to make social media work for you in a positive way, then that's great.
Yeah.
Because
mm-hmm.
Because I realize some people, they just completely shut down from social media and they refuse to use any of it because they think that it's all evil, which I don't think is true. I've actually found a lot of support through Facebook, through certain groups, and I've found a lot of people that I can consider mentors, not only in the business field, but also in like weight loss, anxiety, coping, and getting out of depression. Like any part of your life, you can find a group, not necessarily just on Facebook, but anywhere on social media, to find people who support you or people who are going through the same thing as you. And so just shutting it off completely is not good either.
Well, right, because it's basically avoidance, and
Right.
avoidance doesn't really solve the problem.
No,
so let me ask you a question. Yeah, no, absolutely. So let me ask you a more specific question about social media, because I know millennials, I mean, we're all kind of on social media. A lot of us.
We're just like stuck to our phones.
Yeah. There's like a whole generation, probably from 20s to like 50s that are like in it, right? So, and you probably agree to this because I know you're into the law of attraction and stuff like that. I have found that when you're looking for negative stuff, you're going to find it.
Oh,
when you're looking for positive stuff on social media, you're going to find it. And the truth is true. It's true for life and it's true for social media. So you're absolutely right when you say that if you try to shut it down, it's not going to solve your problem. It may put it to the side for like a second or two, but it's not going to, it's going to come back. So you really have to change what's going on in here, right?
Right. And sometimes I think it's difficult to visualize something better because it's not right in front of you. But I think if you just keep delving a little bit deeper, just a little bit, like 1, 2 more inches in, you'll
Yeah.
probably find everything that you've been searching for and probably more.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're most passionate now about empowering women, around your age, millennials,
Right.
to really get past, these limitations that they've been experiencing, similar to what you've experienced as well. And I
Right.
have to tell you that for me, like that kind of hits close to home because, and I talk about this when I I talk to my clients and I speak, but when I was in college, I also went through a moment of anxiety and depression through school. So,
Right.
and I didn't find anybody in that time. I mean, there was really no
Right.
social media going on. Like there was no
Right.
Facebook at the time. So I didn't have that extra layer. But
Yeah.
even without that extra layer, there was just not enough, people my age
Right.
that I could really
Definitely.
talk to about it. So yeah, so for sure, you're doing a really great thing by speaking
Thank
about
you.
it. Yeah, totally. Okay, so how did you start your coaching journey then? How did it become from like, oh my God, I went through all this stuff and I'm kind of able to overcome it, to now like, all right, let me go inspire some people and help them through it.
So it actually, I would say, it took me about a year to really gain some clarity on exactly where I wanted to take it because I knew for maybe the last couple months of my college time that I wanted to start some sort of service-based business. So I didn't want to do products. I did want to provide a service.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to figure out how I would do that. And so originally it kind of became, yeah, I want to help people gain confidence, but then how do you do that? Because me just writing about, oh, you should push for your goals. Like, I mean, you can't be that generic and expect people to come to you, right? You have to add a little bit of humor, make it a little bit of fun, because also the other problem that I found was a lot of self-help books, they gave a lot of information that was really useful, but because it's so boring,
It's
I mean,
dense.
I was I was interested in the topic, so I didn't mind reading it. But then when I realized the vast majority of people who want to help themselves just aren't going to sit there and read a 300-page book, no matter how good it is. Like, I mean, most people, they say they don't have time, they don't have, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
And so I kind of figured out that self-help and self-discovery and things like this don't have to be boring. They can be fun. And once you really get into it, it becomes even more fun.
absolutely.
And so that's kind of where I brought this out, where it was like, you can want to push yourself and also laugh along the way. Like, it doesn't have to be serious all the time. And while there is a place to be serious, it doesn't all have to be like that. Like,
Right.
obviously when you're in the workplace, maybe a little bit more serious. But if you're just with your friends and you're trying to have a good time, then, yeah, you want to feel empowered and you want to feel good, but you don't always have to make it so cut and dry.
Yeah,
That's kind of where
absolutely.
I took that direction.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I mean, that's a message that's true for, adults. I mean, like people in plus 30, 40 plus as well. They're not
Right.
going to sit necessarily through all this material. So let me ask you something. So now that you're serving, the millennial population, how do you think your message is going to be slightly different? How are you going to tweak, what you do to specifically serve this audience? What have you found that you guys need?
So I realized that one of the big things, like I said, it has to be somewhat entertaining, and I also have to make it so that it could be short, maybe lessons, I would say. I don't really like using the word lessons because it makes me feel like I'm back in a classroom, but it's just like short little things that make something click in your brain, right? So it doesn't have to be like a 10-hour video of me sitting here and saying, oh, you need to do this and you need to do that. It's like we all know, we've heard, okay, how do you cope with anxiety and depression? You meditate, you go out for a walk, you exercise, you listen to music or whatever, but there has to be something really quick that you can understand, that when you're in a crisis mode, you realize, okay, this is the step that I need to take. It's going to be like this. And so I think it's just because that's a problem that I had a lot, is like, I know theoretically I'm supposed to follow A, B, and C, but when I'm in a crisis mode, how do I fix that?
Yeah.
But then, if you find easy ways to incorporate it into your life as a whole, then when a crisis hits, then you're more likely to kind of incorporate that much easier and stop anxiety in its track, or
Sure.
stop yourself from getting down back into that downward spiral that you've gone down so many times before.
Absolutely. So, along those lines, like I know you had your major point when you were in college. Were there other pivot points that you had that kind of, inspired the trajectory that you're currently on right now to inspire millennials and get, this message out there?
Yeah, so I realized, I started like interviewing other people around my age, not necessarily sit down with them and record what they're saying, but just kind of understand where they're coming from. And so I realized that everyone had a similar concept that they were struggling with. And so I realized, of course, my own experiences were the reason that I even started to think about this. But then I realized once I was talking to more people, it was like, everyone came from different backgrounds and everyone grew up in slightly different environments, but there were specific things that everyone was struggling with, where it kind of made me think like, okay, but this could actually be something really important, or something that could end up much bigger than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Because this was supposed to be, yeah, okay, so I know I said I wanted to start my own business, but really, I think every 22-year-old says. And so this was just supposed to be kind of a passion project on the side, that not necessarily even trying to make money off of it, but just doing something to help the greater good of people my age.
Yeah.
That I realized there was one moment where I told this girl, I forgot exactly what I had said, and I wish I'd written it down, but I had said just one sentence, and she said, "Do you have a course out? If you do, take my money now." And that is the moment that I just thought to myself, okay, well, if this girl is willing to put money in my hand right now,
That'll do it.
clearly then I have something to go with. And so that's kind of what pushed me forward a little bit. And then I also realized, like, when other people validate what you have, it makes you feel confident. But then if you could find a way to validate yourself, then you're going to go a lot further than you ever thought you could. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Such great knowledge for someone so young. So good.
Thank you.
That's all the meaty stuff. So now that you're, well on your path, and I know that, basically my philosophy is you never really get there. You really just set goals along the way, right? So what are you doing to continue to master your craft? Because you're always going to be mastering it and changing it and switching it up and figuring out ways to improve it. What are you doing right now, and what do you plan to do to master what you're doing?
So I spend a few hours a week on self-help and kind of discovering new avenues that I could take it down, because originally I was focusing more on how to gain confidence and be more assertive in the workplace. And then I realized that maybe it could be also down like how to use social media to gain your confidence, via like support groups and things like that. And then I also started reading The Secret, and that completely changed my life because it just kind of gives you a new perspective on everything that you've kind of heard from childhood, like
Absolutely.
speaking things into existence, or just like simple things like if there's a will, there's a way. It's like all these cliche things that you've always heard. It kind of gave like a theory to explain all of that. And so basically it's whenever I read something like this, it kind of helps me connect certain things that I've been thinking about for a long time. And then, certain things that I've read in a book may make sense to me now because of where I have come after 5 or 6 years. But had I been reading this book 6 years ago, I wouldn't have understood what she's saying because it's just kind of difficult for me to visualize. So then I kind of just break it down so that anyone could understand it. Like, I think if you can explain something in 4 or 5 words for a 5-year-old to understand, then you've kind of understood it. So kind of what I've been doing with certain things like this. It's like I break it down so that anyone can understand, and I think that's how I'm pushing myself.
Yeah. So how are you incorporating fun? I mean, besides Nutella, because if you're bringing Nutella into it, I mean, I'm all over it.
It's always fun, right? So some of the blogs that I write are a little bit more on the sassy side. And I do have a little bit of humor in it every once in a while. I know that a post I was writing a while ago, I said, the whole point of it was to schedule your time so that, you have times to be a rock, and then you have times to watch Grey's Anatomy for 12 hours and cry. And so it's like little funny things like that I just add into it, where it's like, it's relatable. Because again, no one wants to sit, like, yeah, of course, when you sit there for 5 hours and you listen to this person talk about their struggles and how they overcame it, and you can too, it's empowering. But if it's not fun or it's not entertaining, and you don't seem to make it just a little bit lighter, no one's going to pay attention long term.
Yeah.
Because I've also thought about, okay, who do I actually like to look at on social media? Who do I follow all the time or look forward to their posts? And why do I find them, someone that I want to follow all the time? It's because they're interesting, because they have something to say.
Because they're funny.
And they're really funny. And that's kind of what makes you remember what they're saying too, right? So the reason that you remember something is because maybe it was so funny that it made you laugh. And so that's why I'm kind of trying to find that balance between funny and like actually providing value for somebody.
Yeah, no,
I
absolutely.
don't want to be just funny. I mean, like, everyone loves Nutella, but you have to add a little bit of value too.
What do you mean? No, just Nutella is fine.
All the problems in the world.
Just eat Nutella and
Just with a spoon.
I'll be okay with that. All right. So in terms of the work that you do, I mean, what kind of patterns and beliefs have you noticed in your generation that are really limiting them from pursuing this passion that you have and that I have, and that, there's so many people that are so inspired and empowered and passionate about them. What's limiting them from finding these things and pursuing it?
I think one is like just little roadblocks in your daily life where you're like, see, something crappy happened again. This is why I shouldn't even go forward. But I think we have this mentality of, if anything bad happens, then it wasn't meant to be.
Right.
But the only reason that so many bad things are happening is because you think that they're going to happen. But if you learn how to twist that and be like, okay, this is just a test to see if I can go forward, then if you change your perspective on it, then it's really not something that's horrible that's happening.
Right.
It's just like what do they call it? Like a first world problem. It's like, oh, my phone died. And it's like, all right, well, it's not the end of the world. So I think just like deciphering between what is actually the end of the world and just the first world problem can vastly make a difference, I think. And also, I think one of the problems that we really are struggling with, I think, as millennials, is constantly comparing ourselves to everybody. Because all the time we're suffering from information overload. There's constantly information going out between like what you should be doing, like top 10 ways to do whatever. And while that's great, and while it can be useful, a lot of times when even now, when I realized like, oh, I've been doing it this way my whole life. But just because you're doing it differently doesn't mean you're doing it wrong.
Right.
It just means that you're doing it differently. But I think now we've gotten so used to doing everything a certain way, and if you're not doing it that one way, then you're wrong. And so that's, I think, something that we really struggle with
Yeah.
as a generation.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's like, it's almost like law of attraction gone wrong, but not really, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, exactly. I totally agree with that because, and now I know how to stop that kind of thinking in its tracks. But I remember it's like anything that I would see on Instagram, I would see, oh, she has her makeup done this way. And while I love using makeup, I I've stopped using makeup as much because I realized it was something that I was using in a negative way. It's like, oh, I'm only using makeup because I know everyone else is doing it, so I feel the need to do it, not because I actually enjoy putting on makeup. Do I enjoy putting on makeup sometimes? Yeah, and that's the times that I do it. But before, I was putting on makeup every day, not even because I wanted to, but because I thought I had to.
Absolutely.
And so then maybe you're not following your actual passion because you feel the need to do all these other things that other people are doing. But if that doesn't really align with what you want in life, then is it really worth doing it? Probably not.
So here's a question, because all of this reminds me of some of the stuff I talk about, which is related to intuition, right? Because a lot of this stuff is also really connecting to yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And following your gut, because even though you went to get this XYZ thing and it didn't quite go exactly as you planned, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. And especially if your gut is telling you, right? Your gut is telling you, keep going, right? Just walk over that hump or that rock or that boulder, whatever that is, and just keep going toward the finish line. And people aren't really, connecting enough. And do you find that for your generation? Like, are you guys in tune as much?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a problem that we have because it's definitely like, oh, well, she's doing it, so maybe that's a better choice, right? So we constantly, I think from the people that I've talked to, I think in the back of our heads we have what we truly want, but we're so scared of being isolated, I think, for wanting something different and for being judged, that we would rather do something that we're not the biggest fan of, just so that we're not judged.
Right.
And I also realized, like, especially when I was starting my business, like when it was just an idea, people would constantly tell me, like, oh, do you really think this is a great idea? Like, are you sure? And they didn't believe in me. But now that I've proven myself that I have clients and that I'm attracting better things and I'm, going on a Facebook Live with somebody, or I'm going on a podcast, or I'm, going to be writing a piece for a blog or something like that. Now that I've kind of started proving myself, now everyone's like, see, I told you, you're going to be awesome. Okay, but no, you didn't tell me I was going to be awesome.
Where were you?
Yeah. When I was starting out, you kind of were really hesitant, but now that I've proved myself, you think that I'm great. And so I think it's like this fear of failure or embarrassing yourself in front of other people is really limiting my generation, I think.
Yeah. It's funny because they say that, so I'm turning 40 this year. I think I told you that privately, but I don't care. I talk about it all the time because I don't really look 40, nor do I act it, and definitely don't feel it. But what they say about people who turn 40 is that when you turn 40 is when you come into your own. And I was always like, what the hell does that mean? Like I've been coming into my own for quite some time, right? And so, but that's sort of like the social, cultural, like definition of how we age, right?
Right.
But I really think that's BS, right? It's complete BS. And even more so your generation, like this is the message that needs to come down. Like 20s is the new 40s, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, like you guys should be now using your intuition, because you don't have to wait till you're 20, 30 years older. You can do it now. You can get
Oh,
in
I totally
touch
agree.
now, you know?
And it's funny because I work with someone who's a little bit older than me, and one of my other coworkers was saying, I can't wait until I'm her age because then I get to stop caring as much about little minute things. And I look at her and I was like, well, why do you care so much about minute things now? Like, just stop caring about them. She was like, yeah, but when you're her age, it's easy to explain. And I was like, okay, so you're just gonna wait for another 60 years before you stop stressing with small things? And so
Age is never a reason.
exactly.
It's
But
never a
yeah,
good
I
one.
totally agree. I think that more people my age are starting to, come into their own and are starting to realize that there's more to life than just, whatever is on social media. And I do have to say, a lot of influencers that I do see on social media now are starting to post like Instagram versus reality posts, which are really important because you can see that
Yep.
they're all posed, that they're all angles, and there's lighting and makeup involved. And, there's all these other factors that we don't really see.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's really important.
I know. I started seeing that, and I'm like, that's how they do it.
Yeah.
That's,
And it's something important to think about also is that when you see someone post on their Instagram feed, you see all these perfect pictures. But then if you think about when you post on your own Instagram feed, do you post when you just wake up and your hair is a mess and you have no makeup on? No, you wait until you go out with your friends and you have your favorite outfit on, and you probably took 40 pictures, then you post one out of the 40.
right.
So that's like something that we have to think about
Welcome to
before we
Photography 101. This is how photography works, guys.
Yes.
Even the models go through this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Plus
Definitely.
Photoshop, which I know all about because
Tons
I
of
do it on.
Photoshop.
Absolutely. So, guys, if you have any questions for Anita, please feel free to ask. We have a lovely, lovely perspective from someone in her generation who's really trying to inspire people and get people moving. And your message is like, for real, it's not even just for your generation. It's for everyone. But I love that you're doing it for your group, because I feel like there's so much good stuff that you can bring to them,
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So having a job and being an entrepreneur, and all the things that you have going on, your family, friends, and a life, social life. When the shit hits the fan, how do you continue to sort of move and continue to sort of pursue what you love and continue to be passionate about it? How do you continue to do that?
So one thing that I started from, I'm guessing I want to say mid-college time, I started daily affirmations. And one of the ones that I used to say every day is, I am in control. And so I think that by constantly saying that all the time, it kind of became something that I would say when things were starting to get stressful. And so I got into that habit. And so then I remember I slowly started to talk myself out of an anxiety attack by telling myself, I am in control. I am in control of my thoughts. I am in control of my actions. I am in control of everything around me. And so it's easier to ground yourself when you are able to convince your mind that you are in control, because that's exactly why a lot of people struggle with anxiety, is because they feel like a lack of control is there.
Absolutely.
And so I think that once you get into a habit like that, or even, I mean, as silly as this sounds, I would actually put alarms on my phone to remind myself to take really deep breaths throughout the
Yep.
day. And so, I used to do that maybe 4 or 5 times a day. And so then when I felt like I was getting really overwhelmed, it automatically came into my brain that, okay, I need to start breathing. I need to start breathing, because I was already used to taking those times to breathe throughout the day. And so once it becomes kind of like second nature to you, it's going to be a lot easier to cope with that anxiety, Because, I mean, okay, you know, when things are going well, you can say, yeah, I'm totally good, like no anxiety. But the only time that it actually matters is when things are not going well. And so that's
Exactly.
the time that you need to focus and be able to ground yourself. And so I found, for me at least, is to confirm with yourself that you are in power, that you have power, and that you are in control.
Yeah.
And you can sort of get out of that shit.
Yeah. And the thing is that all of that stuff is habits. I tell people, like, you know, you get yourself into problems with habits. You get yourself out of
Right.
problems with habits. Like, it's all the
Oh,
same
definitely.
thing. And especially when you're in a good state, people tend to say, okay, like, you know, I want to lose 10 pounds. I lost the 10 pounds, right? So now I can eat whatever I want,
Right.
right? Right? No, like, you need to continue to
Exactly.
have the habits.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's like everyone is looking for a quick fix for everything. But if you're constantly looking for a quick fix, the opposite of what you want is going to come just as quick.
Yeah.
So you lose 10 pounds, you're going to gain it.
Yeah.
You know, like you do really well on an exam and then you just don't study for the next one, you're going to fail the next one. You know, it's like you have to just kind of find balance in your life. And
Yeah.
while that's very difficult, I will say for almost anything, especially if it's a habit that's been ingrained in you, um, finding a balance in everything really, really helps. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I like to say a lot is that you really have to find your deeper why, right?
Yes.
Simon Sinek talks about that. He has a whole book about, you know, finding your why. So what is your why, Anita? Like, why do you do this? What is that deeper, like, you know, deep-seated reason why you do this, and why and how that is going to continue sort of pushing you forward?
So, you know, I've actually been thinking about this one thing because someone did ask me the other day, you know, there's no guaranteed outcome of this, you know, there's no guaranteed success of my business. So why are you doing this? And it's just because I look at where I was 6 years ago and I was basically a train wreck. And so I just realized that so many people are coming out of college. I mean, I don't want to call them train wrecks, but for lack of a better word, yes, they are train wrecks because they don't know
They
where
may
they want
not
to
know it.
go and they're settling for things that they shouldn't be settling for. And I think that in our society now, it's kind of accepted that you're just going to settle for a 9 to 5 job. And you know, I hear people saying this all the time. It's like, I didn't just, I wasn't born just to pay bills and die, but that's what I'm going to do. But the only reason you think you're going to end up in that lifestyle is because you're not pushing yourself, because you don't have the confidence to do so, because anytime things get hard, you don't know how to cope with your anxiety, you don't know how to push yourself and find the right people to talk to, you don't have a good support system. And all of these little things can be found by just making little tweaks into your life. And that's exactly what I talk about. You don't have to make these crazy changes and spend thousands of dollars and, you know, spend 20 hours a week doing some crazy voodoo thing. Is like, it's not like that. You just need to take little tweaks. You maybe need to take 20 minutes out of your day to do something, and if you can make it a little bit more enjoyable, then all the better. And then maybe you can actually find a way to help somebody else.
Yeah. Cheers to all the train works that you're going to help,
Thank you.
so to speak.
Yeah.
So this is so awesome. So tell us a little bit about your coaching and how you're, you know, helping people, and where can we find you online?
Okay, so currently I do offer one-on-one coaching. I came up with a 90-day boot camp, and I am also coming up with a video course that I'm going to be putting out very soon. And so I give you like daily tips and tricks for my email subscriptions. And then my video course is something that I'm really passionate about. So I can actually help people, you know, find these lessons and do them on their own time as opposed to doing it one on one, where some people may not be comfortable with that. And so you can find me at unstickyourlifenow.com, or you can find me on my Facebook page, Unstick Your Life Now, and my Instagram, Unstick Your Life.
Awesome. I think you guys get the point, right? Unstick it.
Yeah, it's a little redundant.
So let me just post really quick. Unstickyourlifenow.com is where you can find her. If you guys have any questions for Anita, please feel free to ask. I'm just so thrilled that you're doing this because I really haven't found many people like you at your age doing something so amazing for this particular group. So I'm just like beside myself. Like, I'm like, yes, we need you. We need more people like you. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep inspiring. And I'm going to put you in my back pocket so I could like hand you out.
Thank you.
To different folks. Really appreciate that you're on the show. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask away. If not, then I'd love to have you give the final thought. If you have any final thoughts before we sign off.
So I would say as a final thought is don't focus as much on the end result. Just focus on each day as a part of the journey. And then you can look back and see how far you came.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Anita. So appreciate that you were on my show. For you guys, again, you can absolutely my pleasure. For you guys who are looking for her, you can find her on unstickyourlifenow.com. You can also find her on Instagram and on Facebook. And again, thank you so much. And thank you guys for joining us. Love having you guys around. Again, this is Teany Hidalgo from Sanese Wellness Academy with your Purpose with Passion series, encouraging you to discover your passions because they will lead you to your purpose. And hope to see you guys next Thursday. Ciao.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.